Hi, I'm strength and conditioning specialist Mike Mejia. And in my last contribution to the Stop blog, I talked about something called the superstar conundrum, which is what happens when a young athlete tends to start specializing and dominating in a particular sport at an early age. And what I've found in my experience is while some of these athletes do pan out, a lot often wind up succumbing to injuries down the road. And a big reason for that is the fact that kids have been training at earlier and earlier ages in an effort to get an edge in their particular sport. What I'm finding is many are way too quick to rush into weight training, and a lot are hitting the same muscle groups that they're already overusing in their sport when they're doing their actual training sessions. So what I wanted to do today was present to you my Fab 5, my 5 favorite exercises for young athletes to be doing to build things like balance, coordination, overall systemic strength, as well as the interplay that exists between stability and mobility that will improve their ability to excel in any sport and reduce their injury potential. So let's take a look at those 5 exercises right now.
All right, we've got Nicole all ready to help us out. And the first drill we're going to do here is called a plank. Now, a plank is great because it develops systemic strength. You're really developing the entire core, and you're not just emphasizing the abdominals as you would with crunches and sit-ups. So Nicole's going to get into position here. She's going to get down on her forearms and get her weight up onto the balls of the feet. And then she's in what's known as a neutral spine posture. No heavy arch in the lower back, but she doesn't have it rounded either. And with planks, you simply hold these for time. Now, as I said, these are great because they provide the limbs with a foundation off of which to move. Nice core strength here. Now we can progress this by actually extending one arm at a time without changing that plank position. And let's see the other side. Notice how she stays nice and flat. Another thing you can do is lift one leg a couple of inches off the ground using the glutes and extending the hip. Once again, we're trying not to deviate at all from that neutral spine posture. And that's the plank, and you can do those either holding them for time or with the arm and limb movements that we just demonstrated. Next up is a simple bodyweight squat. Now, the reason these are so important is because a lot of times young athletes try to get their lower body stronger by using machines and free weights and using weight that they're not ready for. And oftentimes I find that they can't even do a basic bodyweight squat without the proper form. So let's take a look at that right now. As you can see, Nicole has her feet a little bit wider and shoulders width apart. She's going to place her arms across her chest. And now the cues here for the squat, we want to keep the chest up, sit the hips back, and keep most of the weight on the outside and the back of the foot. Drive up and through. Notice how she stays nice and upright in the torso, pauses at the bottom, and she has her knees lined up directly in the same position as her toes. Her knees are not pinching together as you'll often find on a squat with young athletes or bowing out to the sides. Great job, Nicole. Why don't you turn, let's get a profile view there. Now I want you to notice the way the first thing that moves is that her hips break back first. Again, look at that upright torso. She breaks at the hips, pauses at the bottom at about parallel to the ground. And last time, chest up tall, pausing and driving up and through. And that's the body weight squat. All right, our next drill is called a band row. Now for this one, we've attached a medium resistance band to something sturdy that we know isn't going to move. From here, Nicole begins by grabbing onto the bands and standing with her feet about shoulders width apart, knees slightly bent, and a nice neutral spine posture. Here she begins by pulling back, pinching the shoulder blades together and down to emphasize the pull. Let's get those handles all the way back into the armpits, Nicole. Sticking the chest out, and we're strengthening the upper back here. Notice that she uses a nice controlled pull, not trying to tug with her arms, but really trying to pinch those shoulder blades together and down. And she's strengthening the scapular stabilizers of the upper back, muscles that tend to go underworked in young athletes. This is a great drill for anyone in general, but particularly if you're involved in any kind of overhead sports like swimming or any kind of throwing motions as well. Great way to also offset a lot of the work that goes on, a lot of too much work in the front of the body with things like push-ups and crunches. And it's a great way to help strengthen the muscles on the back of the upper body and guard against shoulder injuries. And that's a band row with a neutral grip. You'll want to do anywhere between 10, 12 to 15 repetitions of this one. All right, next up we've got a single leg bridge. Now this is one of my favorite drills, and the reason that I like it so much is because it really increases glute and hamstring activation, and it also involves the core. Now you begin by lying down on the floor with both knees bent about 90 degrees. We're going to take one leg up over the hips, and I want you to pay attention to that position there, because that position between that left thigh and the torso has to remain constant. In other words, as she bridges up, she's not allowed to let that leg go out further away from her. So she's going to brace her core tight as if she's expecting a punch in the stomach, and she's going to press the right foot into the ground, bridge those hips, excellent form there, and then lower down and through. Nice and controlled, bridge up. You want to make sure you can hold the top position for at least a second or two. And most importantly, she's making sure not to hyperextend through her lower back and throw her hips up high. She's got her abdominals pressed in tight, belly button towards the spine, and she's holding braced at the top, a nice diagonal line from that right knee all the way down to the shoulders. Make sure you hold each one for a second or two at the top, maintaining that neutral spine, and you would do about 8 to 10 repetitions on each side here. And that's the single leg bridge. All right, for this final drill, I'm giving Nicole a bit of a break here. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's a very demanding drill, and she's coming off of a tough swim practice. So you can see I practice what I preach in that I don't force my young athletes to do stuff when I know there's already a high level of fatigue involved. So this drill is called a windmill, and we can actually add a push-up to it as well. Now the thing that I like about the windmill is it really promotes core strength and shoulder stability. Now we begin as if we're going to do a push-up. Now I want you to notice my start position. My shoulders are directly over my wrists. Feet are apart a little bit wider than a normal push-up would be, and I'll show you why in a second. And I've got my chin retracted back. I'm not allowing my head to hang down. Now from here, I'm going to brace my core, and I'm going to rotate through. Notice the way that I turn onto the sides of the feet, and I reach up for the ceiling. Now here I'm getting a lot of work in the core to maintain this position and a lot of shoulder stability. Come over nice and easy, brace tight. I'm not just going to throw the hips. I'm going to brace the core. Everything's going to come up nice and easy. Hold through the top. Now, what we can do to make this more difficult, we can actually add a push-up into the motion. Keep the head back, down under control, pause at the bottom, drive up and through, rotate to one side, come around, and then rotate to the other. Now, the reason that I like doing push-ups with a windmill attachment to them is because you cut down on the number of push-ups that you're doing. There's going to be a lot of fatigue involved. So here you might do anywhere from 3 to 5 or even 6 push-ups, getting a lot of shoulder stability and a lot of core involvement as well, instead of just banging through and doing 10s and 20s and 30s push-ups at a time, or a lot of things I see young athletes doing, and really tightening up those pec muscles and not doing anything to promote good posture and shoulder stability. So that's the windmill, and you can try it without push-ups for about 8 to 10 repetitions total, doing 4 to 5 per side, or you can throw in a push-up doing as many as you can, making sure that you maintain that good neutral spine posture, not allowing the back to arch or the butt to round up in the air either. And that's the windmill.
So there you have it, 5 simple exercises that you can do with little to no equipment a couple of times per week that'll help you build a sound athletic foundation and avoid injury as well. And if you have any questions about the information presented here today, feel free to drop me an email at mike@basesportsconditioning.com. I'll see you next time.